Hey everybody, welcome to this
B1
English listening practice video. You can use this video to practice your listening and comprehension as I speak. You ready? So today I'm going to talk about phones. I talked about this topic the other day and I got to think about how important phones are in our everyday lives. So let's talk a little bit about this. Let's go briefly through the history of phones. We will talk some basic version of the telephone has been invented earlier. Alexander Graham Bell is usually credited with the invention since he won the first US patent for it. A patent is the government is giving to someone who comes up with an idea or an invention. It includes other people for making or selling this invention for a certain number of years. So Alexander Graham Bell received a patent for the telephone in 1876. Prior to that, people couldn't talk over long distances. They could only send messages through telegraph or some other means. You can imagine how revolutionary this invention was when suddenly people could talk and have their voice heard in a different location. It must seem like a really advanced technology at that time. But obviously, telephone didn't just become common household item overnight. It would be decades before this device became commonplace, and at the turn of the century, there was still fewer than a million phones in use. One big milestone in the development of phones was the first transcontinental call, which was made from New York to San Francisco in 1915. Nowadays, this might not seem like a huge feat, but this type of long-distance communication was completely unheard of that time. The telephone was changing the way people talk about communication. Over the next few decades, many more millions of households installed landlines and the telephone became the king of communication. Then fast forward to 1977 and the world saw the introduction of the first cell phone made by Motorola. But if you're thinking that cell phone bore any resemblance to today's phone, think again. This first mobile was a monster. It definitely couldn't fit in anyone's pocket. Later on, in 1989, the first flip phone appeared on the market. A flip phone is a phone that you open like this, the type of phone that I had growing up. In 1992, the first text message was sent between phones. Obviously, today, text message is an essential function of all cell phones, and people communicate more through messages than they do through calls. Come to think of it, it seems people trying to avoid calling and instead send messages whenever possible. Another cell phone feature that we take for granted nowadays is the camera. The first camera phone came out in Japan in 1999 and then later on the rest of the world. And then finally, in 1907, the first iPhone came out, stunning the world with its revolutionary design and touchscreen display. Even though there were always smartphones an extension at that time, the phone really brought smartphone to me. After that, other companies followed suit and started releasing smartphone after smartphone. Nowadays, it seems like practically everyone who can afford it has a smartphone. This device has become a necessity in many people's lives, and most people spend many hours every week using it. Actually, a lot of people don't even use their computer that much because they can do everything from their phone. If you had told people just a few decades ago about the cell phone of today, they probably wouldn't have believed you. Who knows what type of innovation we might see with phones in the future? I guess we have to wait to see. Okay, now I'm going to ask you 3 questions about today's video. Write your answer in the comment down below. And in what year was the first transcontinental phone call made? 2. Which company made the world's first cell phone? 3. What's most important cell phone features were added in 1992?